Hi, my name is Paul Greenberg. I'm a language enthusiast from Toronto on an amazing journey with Anishinaabemowin.
Hi, I'm Isadore Toulouse, also known as Niswe Andeguk in my Anishinaabe name, which means three crows. And I am a specialist in Anishinaabemowin for the last 40 years.
We decided to create Paul and Isadore Living Anishinaabemowin to share our ongoing dialogue about and in the language with you all. We release episodes regularly and we hope that you enjoy watching it as much as we enjoy making it. If you think that what we are doing is worthwhile and should be seen by others, please hit the like button below. That's how we get seen. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the exciting things we have in store, please be sure to subscribe below. Make sure to turn notifications on so that you will know when we upload a new episode. Gziib'nashk. Hello and welcome to Paul and Isadore Living Anishinaabemowin, episode 12. Ani Isadore.
Ani, Paul, episode 12 already. My goodness, where does time go?
I know.
It's already October 15th. My goodness.
It's incredible. So I guess since the last time we met, you've been to Florida, powwow, lots of stuff going on.
Oh, I've been to Florida and back. On my way back there in mid-November.
Okay, well, I have a little secret. Guess where I'm going tonight?
You, I believe, are going to Wikwemkong.
I am going to Wikwemkong, and I'm so excited. I can't even
Lucky you. You're going to the opening of I forget the name of the building, but the Anishinaabe building that Bev is working on.
Exactly. And not only that, but I'm also going to be attending a 100th birthday party tomorrow.
Right, for Elizabeth Ebosage.
Right. And so if I'm not mistaken, she is the sister of Uncle Bernard.
Right.
And he is the one who owned the farm that's being turned into a ranch.
Right.
So it should be interesting. So we have a really exciting episode today. We've been, for the past couple of episodes, been talking a little bit about this word Mshkiki, what it means. And so we've decided to do a deep dive, or let's say a deeper dive into that topic. And so we'll be kind of doing a number of different things related to that. Before we dive in, I think there's something that I should probably remind our viewers of, which is how incredibly important and fulfilling it will be for them if they all like our video now and subscribe so they can be made aware of any new episodes that come out. And of course, share with other people to make sure that they spread the love that we're creating. So please do it now. Okay, so let's start. Related to Mshkiki, Isadore, I actually have a question I'd like to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit of an open-ended one. I'm going to pull it up here. And yeah, it's broad. So what exposure or experiences, if any, have you had during your life to Mshkiki?
Well, growing up with my grandparents were my grandmother was a herbalist. She collected medicine. She was a medicine, not known as a medicine woman, but she knew medicines. So we would go out into the forest, into the bush, or into the fields of different places by the lake shores, and she'd go collecting medicines. So we'd go collecting with her. And the important part of that, I would never see her, but I knew she had something in her pouch or whatever she has that she would be offering her sema, her tobacco. Though she was a strict Roman Catholic woman, she still offered her tobacco. I don't know if she did it secretly, but that is something that I had noticed. So that's the type of exposure that I had with my grandparents, being able to know and understand different medicines that are out there and how to prepare them from my grandma and grandpa.
Super interesting. So some questions around that. So the first one is, my exposure to the tobacco so far has been a few things. One is when I've gone up to Wikwemkong, I learned about wrapping the tobacco. I forget what it's called, but in the sort of the red pouch and offering that
Mhm.
you mean. But then the other is when I went hunting with Bev's son, and we actually were very lucky to get a deer. And we at the end, after we found it, down in the place where it had been shot, we both put tobacco on the animal and prayed.
Mhm.
It was a really profound experience. But what I'm wondering is, when you're saying that your grandmother was putting the tobacco down, was it when she was harvesting? Was it sort of in thanks for what she was getting, or was it more just putting it down to encourage or nurture the forest to kind
Oh
of?
yeah, it was in thankfulness for collecting, for being able to collect it,
Okay, okay,
to be able to harvest the
okay.
different medicines or herbs that she was collecting.
And was she collecting it for herself, or was she also giving it to other people? What was
She
that?
was collecting it for herself and for the family, giving it to different family members.
Got it. Okay. And I presume she learned that by doing sort of the same thing with her parents or grandparents.
Yeah, and I believe she learned that from her mother, from her parents, and
Mhm. Okay, interesting. Um, and so does that mean that you were also consuming some of these medicines when you were younger?
oh, of course I was. Yes, I
Yeah.
was different ailments. She would prepare different concoctions to help suppress the sickness, to help um, kill the sickness that I was enduring, that the kids were enduring.
Mhm. And so I guess, given where you live now, or other places as you've grown older, you've obviously, I shouldn't say this or presume this, but you've also, I assume, consumed so-called Western medicine or pharmaceuticals, right?
Oh yes, very very much so.
And have you, like, do you notice any difference between when you were taking the Mshkiki as a youngster and the impacts of these medicines? Like, or is it sort of the same, or?
Yeah, no, it's more easily accessible. These pharmaceutical
Sure.
prescribed medicines are more easily accessible.
Hmm. But sorry, I guess what I mean is taking them in terms of like how you feel or how you heal, or like, did you have a sense of it being different, or?
Yeah, I would think it would be a longer process to heal from the current medicines that are available through the pharmaceutical
Oh, interesting. Okay.
companies now.
Okay. So when you would get this type of thing from your grandmother, you'd feel like a real impact from it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. I actually honestly could spend the next hour just asking you about this, but we should move on.
Right.
So let's go back to our slides. And first thing we're going to do is go back to my last message to Bev. My disclaimer is really two. On the plus side, I did have your model and I tried to listen to your intonation. On the downside, I tripped up a few times, so hopefully you'll forgive me and it won't hurt my score too much. All right, let me play that. And you can follow along with the Anishinaabemowin on the slide.
Ani bev, miigwech gwonda mizinates jigansag. Taga beabeje nindawen, gimimadizuin ode wikwemkong. Abeje nishin, wabejigadeg manda nowewin, majish kachigan bimadezi magak. Abeje mami kwendam, jijayang minwa ji o wabindama. Minwadash go gin jiwabminna. Now, Bama.
So my main objective is that she understands me. So hopefully she would have understood.
I understood. So you're fine.
Okay, good. All right, so in keeping with the Mshkiki theme, this is actually really cool. We got a video from Bev where she's actually filming her sister Martina, who, from what I understand, knows a bit about medicines, and she's actually harvesting a medicine, which is actually one of the ones that we're going to talk about a little bit later today. So let me first play it, and you can also follow along with the Anishinaabe one on the slide, and we can talk about what she said.
Abuso. Mugini kwende go. Se masangi biget na. Manda sa we pop kibedo. Gziib'nashk manda shinkade. Mshkiki on manda. Ish manda be pop kibedo anangwa. Chibna kau gyang na manda di. Idin kanein. Imande na abdaksa.
Oh, knaini.
Yeah.
Chabo.
Chibo di. Nabuk sinang nang wacher megewa. Lubnag kwendas manda di sabo sinang kasaton. Apres na gunong gewu me boxing. Mageni. Me boxing ko dana. Iye manda di. Asa kade guna chida. Nishpati chitama gaspa manda di. Manda go es na go kuna. Ti chitama gaspa go yewe. Nisha aspes pada. Ishi onem ne yache we ne gudani. Inem naging wa kan. Ishi nim ne keken ma. Pagi guna tigering diken dan.
Aha.
Aha, bigat.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk about what she said. So first, I'll pass over to you, starting with the ah bonjour.
All right. So she starts with "Ah bonjour," which means okay, hello.
Mhm.
Ogini kwe ndigo. Ogini kwe ndigo. Ndigo means I am told, I am called. Ndigo. So she is wild rose woman. Ogini kwe.
Okay.
And then she goes on to say, Sema sa ngibigidna. Sema sa ngibigidna. So she's saying, I offered my tobacco. Sema sa ngibigidna. I offered tobacco.
Okay, so just to break down a couple of things. So indigo, as you said, is I am called or I'm known
Uh-huh.
as, and then kwe, of course, is woman. So ogini is that's wild rose, right?
Yes.
And can you remind me, because I think we came across a root of this word. How do you say pink again? I thought it
Oh.
was something to do with Guinea,
Gnionde.
Guineonde, right?
Gnionde.
The color of the rose.
Right.
Okay, and then so sema, of course, is tobacco,
Tobacco.
and then ingi beginda. So ingi, of course, is I, the past tense.
Oh, I spelled that wrong. That should be begidna.
Begidna.
Gidnaa.
Okay.
Begidna.
Begidna.
I just heard you right. I just heard you read it as beginda.
Okay.
Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, no worries.
Nah.
Okay, so begidna. So
you're a good reader.
Okay, and actually, yeah. So this, I'll tell you one thing. This is the type of thing that I always call a really good memory exercise, because I will never forget begidna now because of this little episode.
Uh-huh.
So okay, so begidna is to offer then.
To offer. If I was to say begidnishin, that shin is reflective towards me. So that would be allow me. Begidnishin. But in this case, we're offering that tobacco. Let me allow my tobacco to do this work. Ndo begidna.
Okay, so sema sa ngi begidna, and then
Manda sa wipa pkibdoa. Weepaw, future tense, to be able to go around and do this. And she's picking whatever it is. So she's picking from the ground. Pkibdun. Long ago, our people used to come to Michigan in this area, Traverse City, to pick cherries, to pick apples. And we would call that mbiba pkibjige. So pkibdoa is to actually pick. So in this case, she's picking medicine.
So a question. So the we is the future tense.
Right.
What is the pa?
Pa is to go around and do it. For example, pa mose, to go around walking around. Pa mbatu, to go around running. Pa udetu, to go around touring, shopping. Pa udetu.
Okay, got it. So I offered my tobacco, and then is it basically not really so that, but maybe in advance of going to go around picking?
Yeah, to be able to.
To be able to. Okay.
Right.
Okay, and then
Gziib'nashk, and again there should be a K at the end there.
Okay.
Gziib'nashk.
Okay.
Manda jinkade. So the medicine she's picking is called Gziib'nashk, and I don't know the English word for it.
I'll tell you something, Isadore. I know the English word for it. and actually, we're going to talk about it in a moment.
Okay.
But it's apparently called Scouring Rush.
Scouring Rush, that's right. There we go.
Yes. Yeah.
Gziib'nashk.
Okay, perfect. So Gziib'nashk, as you said, with the K. And you were telling me a little earlier that a lot of times the plants have the K at the end.
Yeah, most of the plants will have a K at the end.
Okay.
Like wingushk, sweetgrass, wingushk. Wingushk. You might just hear the H at the end, but it's wingushk. Mshkiki, with the K at the end.
Okay. Okay. And so manda jinkade, it is called, or it is named.
Yes,
right?
it is called manda jinkade.
Okay. All right. And then gichi.
Gichi, something big of great value. Mshkiki one, meaning it is held with high regard. Mshkiki one, it is held great medicine. Gichi Mshkiki one. Manda.
Okay, so this is a bit bouncing around topics, but can you remind me how to say every child matters?
Kchipitendauguze ensebebejig binoji.
Right. So
Ensebebejig binoji kchipitendauguze.
Yeah. So what I was remembering is, I remember you were telling me the pitendagoze also means kind of like to be held with like reverence or in high regard. Is that a similar word to this Mshkiki?
This would be yes. Mshkiki one would be it is a great medicine. Mshkiki one.
I can't even believe this. Okay, Mshkiki is in this word.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Okay, got it. Okay. I understand now. Sorry. I wasn't even looking at the word, and I was just hearing you say high regard. So I was thinking Mshkiki one meant high regard, but I see now it's basically saying it's a big medicine, basically.
Yeah, it's a big powerful medicine.
Powerful medicine. Okay, got it. Got it. So Mshkiki one manda. Okay, makes sense. Okay, and then Mishmanda.
Mishmanda beba pkibdoa nungwa. Mishmanda. And so it is. This is what I'm going around. So beba or pa. Ba and pa is used in the same context.
Okay.
Beba pkibdoa. I'm going around picking this medicine. Beba pkibdoa nungwa. Today.
Today or in this moment.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then Jimna.
Gziib'nashk. To give me healing. To give me personally. Gziib'nashk. To give me soothing. To help me heal. Gziib'nashk.
Okay, so just to break that word down a bit, so the mena is good, right?
Good, right.
Okay, and then the j at the beginning?
J is two.
T-O.
Yeah, two.
Okay.
Two, yes.
Okay. Two, and then meaning like in order to?
Yeah, in order to.
Got it. Okay, and then the kawagian? Kawagiwan.
Kawagian. Tell that should be a Y-A-A-N-H. Gziib'nashk.
Okay.
That would be to give me inner healing.
Got it.
For me, singular. Gziib'nashk. If I wanted you to have that healing, I would say, Mandam nikwen, drink this. Gziib'nashk.
Okay.
But in this case, it's Gziib'nashk. So Martina is saying to give her inner healing.
Are there any other words where the root of that kaugian shows up, like other places where the kind of the source of that word?
Yeah, I'm sure there are many other words where we can use the kaugian in.
Okay. but basically it means to heal, healing.
Jim, yeah, the Mnokaugia tells you that it's the inner healing.
Oh, I see. With the mina. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
with the Mina.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then gona manda ni.
Gona manda ni. Jim Mnokaugia gona manda ni. And she's just adding on to this ni that Bev always says all the time. Ni.
Okay.
And so it is.
Okay. And then ni genin kaneyin.
Ni geni nkanein. So in this case, she's talking about her bones.
Mhm.
Nkan. Nkan is a bone. Kan. Nkan is my bone. Kakan would be your bone.
Mhm.
Kakan. Okan would be his or her bone. So nkanein, meaning my bones.
Okay.
Nkanein.
Okay. And then mimanda.
Mimanda enabadak sa. So this is what the purpose of this is for. Mimanda enabadak. Enabadak.
So the enabidak is basically the purpose.
Right.
Got it. Okay. And then on kanein.
Oh, kanein ni, and that's where Bev, the narrator of this video, pipes in. Oh, kanein. Oh, for bones.
Mm-hmm. And what is jibwa?
Jibwa means before, and she was going to continue to say something there. Ni jibwa, so before whatever she was going to say.
Got it. Okay. And then I guess Martina comes back as jibwa ni.
Jibwa ni mibukshina, meaning before she breaks her bones. Jibwa mibukshina.
Okay.
Is that what it says on there? With my bones is the purpose of this bones not to before I break my bones somewhere. Yeah, Jibwa mibukshina somewhere.
Okay, so jibwa is before.
Jibwa, yes.
And then mibokshina is
to break my bones. But before Jibwa mibukshina. So she takes that medicine ahead of time, because if she didn't, she might easily break her bones if she fell.
Mm-hmm. So what is ngoje in this case?
Ngoje means in a location where. Ngoje.
I see. So the idea here then is basically before in some place I end up breaking my bones.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And then ndo minikwen?
Ndumnikwen, I drink it. Ndumnikwen. Ndo, I, me. Ndumnikwen.
Okay. Now, could you, so in that case, Dominiquen, could you also say Uminiquen, or do you need to have the do in there?
Well, it depends who is doing the drinking. If I told you, Paul, Nikwen Manda, drink this. Nikwen Manda. But Nin Ndumnikwen, I'm drinking this. Ndumnikwen.
Okay, so you need to have like you couldn't say Niminikwen. You need to say Dominiquen.
You can say Niminquen, meaning I am drinking it. Niminquen.
Okay. Okay, but not I drink, I guess.
But you can say Niminque, I drink. Niminque.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Dominiquen dash manda. So I drink this. Then Nibishabo Jinda Ngajeton.
Nibishabo Jinda Ngajeton. I will make tea from here. Jinda from here. This product.
Oh man, I think I told you that these moments are starting to happen more. When I just read that Nibish Abo Jinda Ngajeton, I totally understood everything there. Like it, without even translating in my head, it made sense, which is the really exciting bit of this process. Okay, so Nibishabo, which we've had before, is the tea, right?
Yep, Nibishabo is the tea.
Which basically literally means the leaf liquid.
The leaf liquid, right.
Jinda here.
Jinda here.
And then Ngajeton is I will make.
I will make. I will create. Ngajeton.
Okay. Okay. And then Nangodnong.
Nangodnong means now and then. Nangodnong. Nangodnong gego. Woya. nandagot ng gego goya mibuksing. So every now and then, nandagot ng, when someone breaks their bone, nandagot ng gego goya mibuksing,
Okay.
mage ni mibuksing gona na.
Okay. And so that mage ni go shingonana, what is that?
She is saying in the matter that she's just repeating nandagot ng ge go goya mibuksing. She's just repeating that word again, that someone had broken and fell
Okay.
and broke a bone.
What is
Mibuksing.
mage?
Mage is or.
Or okay. Got it. Okay, and then mige.
Mige manda. And so this is mige.
Mige manda ni. Okay.
Mige manda ni
Okay.
da zigade. Mige manda da zigade, meaning it can be boiled. Da zigade.
Okay. So yeah, let's maybe look at that word. So the da and zigade, what are those parts?
So da again is for future tense.
Okay.
Da zigade, meaning zigade is to bring it to a soft boil. Da zigade.
Okay. And then gona jina.
Yeah, for a little while. Jina.
Oh, jina for a little while.
Jina.
Okay. And then mishmampi.
Okay. Mishmampi je tamaga spa. So mishmampi tells you, and this is where. So wherever that broken bone is, mishmampi. Okay, and so this is wherever you have that broken bone.
I think she actually pointed to her arm when she did that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Mishmampi je tamaga spa. Meaning this will be where they will put whatever that medicine is. Jitamagaspa. That third person. If it was you, mishmampi jitamagumba.
Okay.
Mishmampi jitamaguamba for me. Jitamaguamba. Jitamagaspa would be that third person. That's where it'll be put. That medicine.
So I was a little bit confused by this because she was talking earlier about drinking it as a tea, but does it mean that she would actually physically put the medicine on the location? Is that what that
Yes,
means?
she's actually switched and said, "Dazagade gojina mish manda jitamagaspa." So once you bring that medicine to a boil, you'd actually take that medicine and put it to that actual,
like an ointment.
Not like an, I guess like an ointment, but the actual plant itself that you boiled, you take that whole thing and put it right.
Oh, okay. I got it. Okay, so the actual plant and almost wrap it around.
Right. Yes.
Okay, and then
Jitamagaspa we mish minoja aspis. Aspis is meaning they will wrap it.
Okay.
So the thing doesn't fall.
Okay. Jaaspispana. Okay. Wait, okay. So sorry, one question. The na is often like a question marker. Is that the case here or not?
No, this is not the case here.
Okay.
Manda go is na go na. No, it's not the same case.
Okay. All right. Okay, so then we've got pida tamagaspa wayawe mishminwa ji aspispa nas, which is the wrapping, right? Okay, and then pishko ni mina yajiwe.
Pishgo nimna yadjere, meaning until he or she is healed there. Minayad.
Okay.
Nimnayad. Pishko nimnayad je.
Okay.
Nimnayad.
So the pish, I guess, is pidash, basically, right?
Yeah.
Which
very
means
good. Pidash nimnayad. Yeah.
Until. Okay. All right. Okay. And then wene.
Wene gona ni wine minoging. We kadn. So for the bone to be able to heal properly. We'ene, we'ene, we'ene is to do something properly. We'ene gana ni'i, wine minoging, meaning for that bone to heal properly.
Okay. And oh yeah, so iwekan is that bone basically.
Yes,
Okay.
iwekan, that bone.
That bone. Okay. All right. And then misageni.
Mi sageni minik ge kendama. And as for me, that's how much I know. That's all that I know. Mi sageni minik ge kendama.
So what is minik in this case?
Minik means like the number of how much. So in this case, this is how much that I know.
Okay. And then gekindema is I know.
Yeah, ge kendama.
Okay. Okay. And then bangi.
Bangi, a little bit. Bangi gona eto gegu nigi kendan. I only know a little bit. Bangi gona gegu eto gegu ngi kendan.
Mhm.
How?
Okay, so one question just before we play her again. That ingi kendan is the past tense. Does that mean that all that I've learned or all that I've known so far?
Yes, it can mean those in either way. Ningi kendan means I knew that, but it also means I know it. Ningi kendan.
Okay, got it. All right, let's play it once more.
Abuso, okay, kwende se masan gibi getna manda sawi pap gibi doa Gziib'nashk manda shintade Mshkiki on manda ish manda be pap gibi doa namba jibnak kau gyang da manda di dim kanein manda na bdatsa
O knaini. Jabo.
jibo di nabuk sinang nang boche megewa lubnet kwendas manda di sabo sinang kasaton Just now go don't get over your me boxing. Again, me boxing ko dana. Iye manta diye. Asa kade ko na chida. Nishwati chitama gaspa manta diye. Manta ko ish na ko na. Ki chitama gaspa ko ye we. Nisha aspes pada. Ishi onem ne ya che we ne ko dani. Inem naging wat kan. Nisiri ne keken ma. Pagi na tigeding kiken tad.
Aha.
Okay, wonderful. All right, let's go forward. So this time we've changed it up a little bit. Normally we set it up so that I can record and send a message to Bev. But this time I'm actually going to see her tonight. So this is what I'm going to practice on the drive up there and say when I arrive. So if I can just get you to give me a model to say, that would be fantastic.
All right. Ani Bev. Chija ajgo. Gawab minnamba. Ngitchinendam wab minna. Minwa jinbochiding. Minwa eje ngudweanigizien.
Okay, wonderful. So that means, hi, Bev. It's been a while since I've seen you. I'm so happy to see you and spend time with you and your family. So I will do my best to do that justice.
All right.
Okay, so let's get into fun with words. And what we're going to do is talk about Mshkiki in more detail. And there's some really interesting information that I've been discovering out there. But one person in particular who I've found out from you recently is actually a relative of yours, Joseph Pitawanakwat, who I guess is kind of a young guy, right?
He's a young man, yes.
Young guy, who's doing some really, really interesting work around Mshkiki. And so he's got an organization, a company called Creators Garden. They have a website, a Facebook page, YouTube. I strongly recommend that anyone who's interested in this topic, go check those out. And what we've done is leverage stuff that he's put out there to create the materials for today. Now, we are going to be talking about medicine, and I think it's important to give a few disclaimers, important ones. So let me just go through these to make sure that we're not, setting anyone down an ill-advised path. But the first really important point is that we are not traditional or modern medical professionals. At least I'm not, and I presume you aren't either.
I'm not either. So
Okay, and we are definitely not recommending any specific treatments with this. And if anyone wants to take some of the the information that comes out of today's episode and use it for themselves, definitely. If you do any sort of medicinal treatment, you should, of course, do it with the guidance of an experienced practitioner or professional. Our focus for this is, of course, the medicine piece is interesting, but the real sort of entry point and the focus is the language and the words. The other thing I'll just say is that this is a sampling, so it's representative, illustrative, not comprehensive. There's way, way more out there than we're going to cover today. And so in that vein, this episode around Mshkiki, and frankly, I guess any other episode we do is always a starting point, not an end point. It's meant to just stimulate people to kind of go for further discovery. So on that note, let's dive in. And so the first starting point is Mshkiki. And we've actually talked about this in the past couple of episodes, but I'm going to maybe step back and have you just talk about the word a little bit and what it means.
okay, yeah. So the word Mshkiki, and when you hear it, you hear the word Mshkozi, to be a powerful entity, Mshkozi. And the word Ake would be the earth. So the strength of that powerful energy that grows in the earth, Mshkiki. Now another word that we've learned is mashkig, meaning, and it's an English word that that you probably know now as muskeg.
Yeah.
Mshkig. Muskeg is an Anishinaabemowin word.
I literally just made that connection right now as you were saying that. I never had connected it to you before. But yeah.
The word muskeg comes from that word mashkig.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. that's another form of identifying that Mshkiki plants from the muskeg.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting is, I've encountered the word Mshkiki when I went up to Wicklow before. People were talking about even the word English when they say medicine is not the same thing as what we mean when we say medicine in English. And what's interesting is that, when you say medicine in English, I typically, the first image I would have would be white pills. That's sort of the first thing that comes to mind. But when you say Mshkiki, it's this picture that we have is what I envision, is sort of this idea that it's all about sort of natural forms that are around you that are kind of there, to heal. And not even to heal when you're sick, but to also help when you're healthy, which is also kind of a different way of looking at it. So on that, there's a bunch of things that, these are just really high-level concepts that have been picked up by looking through a ton of material that Joseph Pitawanakwat has put out there. And again, this is a really high-level summary. If you really want details, strongly recommend that you check out Creator's Garden. But, as I was just saying, medicine, we translate medicine as Mshkiki, but the more that I'm sort of understanding, I realize that it's a pretty crude translation. It's not really the same meaning, and Mshkiki for me has a much broader sort of scope. And within it, one of the things that Joseph talks about, which I thought was interesting, and I'm not sure if you've encountered this, Isadore, is this what he calls the doctrine of signatures, which is this idea that the form of the plant, and we'll see a couple of examples of this, actually is telling you what it's good for, in your body. And there's some interesting examples that he showed, which we'll look at. He also talked about this idea of nurturing versus sustainability, and this really talking a lot about how traditionally the Anishinaabe have interacted with the environment, especially as it relates to medicine. And this idea that for the Anishinaabe, sustainability wasn't just about leaving the forest to its own devices and hoping for the best or staying out of the way, but having intense interactions with the forest, but doing it in a way that nurtures the environment.
Mhm.
He talks a bit about preventative versus reactive, which we were just talking about, which is, medicine not just being something that you use when you get really sick and then you intervene, but preventing even getting sick in the first place by understanding how the body interacts with all of these different plants. Also, the natural and synthetic, which I thought was interesting, which is things like this is getting a little bit into the details, but he was talking about how natural plant-based compounds can cross the blood-brain barrier and still have impacts in ways that synthetic compounds cannot.
Mhm.
And then also this idea that the synthetic stuff tends to be taking a certain component in isolation, and it has a somewhat of an impact. But when you're doing plant, you get the full scope of everything that the plant offers, and having that the component dealing with one piece interacting with all sorts of things that are in the plant. So the impacts can be a lot more significant. The other one that I thought was really interesting was I saw a video in one video he was talking about plants as community, and this idea that plants like to exist with each other and have relationships with each other, and understanding those relationships is really important. But then we as humans also have a relationship with the plants that we need to understand, and it really sort of, for me anyway, was a really sort of insightful way of describing it. And then some of the historical things I thought were interesting, where apparently Minidominis, in particular in the context of Michinakminis, Turtle Island, was a traditional, and perhaps still is a traditional mecca of Mshkiki, of medicine.
Mhm.
And the Anishinaabeg, at least as Joseph described it, were basically almost like the doctors of the continent, and really being the custodians and the stewards of all of these medicines, harvesting and nurturing them in what Manitoulin Island was sort of recognized as like a hub of these medicines, and they would trade them, for example, with the Iroquois, the Sioux, and other tribes in exchange for staple food. So this was sort of like the go-to place for these
Mhm.
medicines. And then there's another side of this more recently, which I think we should just acknowledge, is an exploitative and extractive history where Western encounters would look at these relationships with the medicines, identify very specific interventions and compounds, and sort of start to focus on extracting them and turning them into pharmaceuticals without understanding the full scope. And
Right.
the main point I want to make there is that we obviously have to be, and I'm very conscious of this, very careful with this information, and not look at it as just sort of a quick fix or understanding them and then running with the information and not really being responsible with it. So this is maybe for anyone watching to sort of think about it in that way.
Mhm.
So with that, let's actually look at some medicines.
And before we go
Yeah.
on here, and the whole idea behind understanding what each of these medicines do is that you need to prepare yourself to be able to understand when it is harvesting time for that particular medicine, for that particular ailment. It could be springtime, could be end of springtime, could be the third week of springtime, could be summertime, could be middle of summer, could be the end of summer, could be fall, beginning of fall, the first week of fall, middle of fall, right at the end of fall. Just as frost is beginning, there's certain medicines that we pick just as that frost is beginning. There's certain times those various medicines are very helpful for us in the wintertime.
Oh, that's super interesting. I didn't even consider that. So it's not just what that medicine does, but also what's the right moment to
Right, the
harvest.
right moments.
Interesting.
And those have been passed on to people like Joe Pitwanakwit, that he knows and understands the various times that you are able to harvest those particular
Mhm,
tree barks, roots of various plants.
mhm. Super interesting. By the way, I should have actually mentioned this earlier. So we did say that Joseph Pitawanakwat is a relative of yours. What's the relation again?
Joseph Pitwanakwit's grandfather,
Yeah,
Jerome,
yeah,
or great grandfather, Jerome,
yeah.
and my grandmother Olive were first cousins.
Okay.
So Joseph Pitwanakwit's great grandfather
Mhm.
and my great great grandmother were brother and sister.
Got it. Now, another thing, which was a real revelation, which I did not even know till recently, is that you're also related to Bev, which means Bev is also related to Joseph. So what's
Right.
the there?
Yes. So Bev's mother, Florence,
Yeah.
and Joseph's grandfather, Jerome, are brother and sister.
Got it. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
And all this time I didn't even know that.
Oh,
That's a really
yeah. We're one big family.
yeah, it's amazing. Okay, and the other thing I should also say is I'm glad that you jumped in before I went to the next slide. I know I have a tendency to get super excited and then just want to go through.
Oh, yeah. You're very bossy.
I need to give you a chance to talk. So just make sure you jump in if I'm going, jumping.
Yeah.
in.
No problem. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at some actual medicines. So the first one.
All right. We have the word, and this is the one Martina was picking here.
Mhm.
Gziib'nashk.
Mhm.
Gziib'nashk. Gziib'nashk. Or I've heard Gziib'nashk.
Oh,
Like something to do with itching. Gziib'nashk. Gziib'nashk. Again, there's that K at the end.
yeah. So you were mentioning that, and so there's a few things that you and I were talking about earlier, and that Joseph also had in his materials. So I thought maybe we could look at some of these components of the word just to kind of understand some of the meaning in the word.
So the word Gziib'e, and you will find this plant grows near water, near a river, near a swamp-like area.
Mhm.
Gziib'e.
Mhm. And this is actually an interesting one. So we'll get into the uses in a second, but apparently one of the reasons, at least according to the information that Joseph was putting together, is that these are very rich in silica and calcium, and those are the places where you'll find large deposits or large amounts of that. There was also zinwe, I guess. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, Zinwe-e.
Okay.
Zinwe-e. Like there's a high pitch sound
Mhm.
in that plant. Zinwe-e. So
Mhm.
Zinwe-e should be Zinwe-e.
Okay.
Zinwe.
Okay. And so I guess I don't know if I haven't heard this myself. I'm not sure if you have, but apparently they have kind of a hollow core so that when they're dried out and maybe if you swing them around or something, there's like a high pitched sound that they make.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we have gazille.
The gizu is something that is sour.
Mhm.
Gizu. Ziu. Okay. Ziu pogud, meaning it's a sour, bitter taste.
And
Ziu pogud.
Ziuigmede also, right?
Ziogmide,
The maple syrup.
the maple syrup, yes.
Yeah. And have you had tea from this Gziib'nashk?
I've had tea. This has helped me a lot.
Okay, and so apparently,
This helps bring blood pressure down.
Mhm.
This helps boost your immune system. This
Mhm.
helps with your diabetes,
Mhm.
especially diabetes.
Okay.
Again, not to go back to our first slide. We're not medicinal practitioners,
Mhm.
but I believe in this stuff that I use.
Mhm. Okay, and then the last word, ZB.
ZB, scouring motion.
Mhm.
Bundles of this plant used to polish wood, metals, ivory. ZB.
Yeah. So according to Joseph, I guess when you fray it, it has a really kind of a rough texture to it, and kind of in the way that you would use something rough to polish stone
yeah?
or that sort of thing. It used to be used that way, which I guess hence the name Scouring Rush. So, so you were talking about some of the uses, and also Martina, interesting, was talking about this. But according to the information from Joseph, it has therapeutic amounts of vitamins and minerals, which are good for hardening and strengthening bones. Seems like that's like a primary source of this. But as you were also talking about, treating cardiovascular illnesses, relieving inflammation around the bones, ligaments, joints. Apparently, it heals severely damaged lung tissue if you had like tuberculosis or from smoking. And it also is good for tissue toning and diuretic action. So if you have like kidney and bladder stones, apparently it gets rid of them, more efficiently than anything else.
Right.
Healing of ulcers, fast healing of external wounds. And I think Martina was also talking a little bit about that, of kind of like wrapping it around your wound. So sounds like a pretty interesting medicine. Shall we go forward?
Sure.
Okay.
Juniper, and this is Chigmiknawash. Chigmiknawash. Wash.
Okay. And so here we've got the juniper, and then also up on the upper right, the juniper berries.
And it's usually mostly the berry that is used, I believe.
Yeah, so this was an interesting one, actually. So again, this is just picking up some stuff from Joseph. Apparently, the resin helps prolong the life of drinking water. So that's one interesting use. The wood itself can be used like in a barbecue to neutralize carcinogens that might come from burning meat.
Right.
And then coming to what you're talking about, the berries can reduce the oxidation of meat and fat by up to 78%.
Yes.
Interesting. And then the needle and twig is a very important to kill bacteria, viruses, funguses, parasites, and also acting as like a flush to get rid of toxins in your body.
Right.
Apparently, it also is good for prevention of communicable diseases. And Joseph actually talked about and sort of, I don't know if ancient times or middle-aged times, medical practitioners putting bunches of berries in their mouth when they were treating patients with communicable diseases to keep the disease at bay, which is kind of interesting. And then apparently the berries are also a good diuretic and very important for antimicrobial and antiseptic effects. So an important one. And by the way, other than gachi, which means big, I don't think there's much in that word for us to really talk about, right? That one.
Yeah, I mean, the word mikan is in there for road, but I don't know why. Kchigmiknawash, wash.
Okay. Well, one thing that maybe we could also start to do is, if anyone is watching this and has some knowledge or information, please leave it in the comments below. Okay, let's go to the next one.
All right. Zasgubmish, willow.
Okay.
Zasgubmish.
Okay. And then this one is apparently effective at treating pain and inflammation, especially due to arthritis. And the willow bark, you were talking earlier about the bark and harvesting that, can be used to relieve pain of all different types.
Right. And again, it needs to be picked at a certain time. And I believe the bark of certain trees can only be picked at fall time.
Interesting. I'm going to go out on a limb and just ask you a question. Is it possible that the ish at the end has anything to do with water in bish? And the only reason I ask that is because these trees also, I think, grow close to water, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Was a guess. Well, again, for this one as well, if anyone watching happens to know where the word comes from, please let us know. Okay.
All right. The next one is a Seneca snake root, which is Gziib'nashk. Gziib'nashk.
And we've seen Mshkiki before.
Yeah, the word Mshkiki is a cow. Mshkiki.
And then we also, I guess, have that K at the end you were talking about.
For most medicines, for most plants, they end with a K. Gziib'nashk.
So this was a really interesting one. So again, picking up on some of the information from Joseph Pidawanakwat, apparently for thousands of years, this has been referred to as the lung medicine. And apparently it has a very significant impact on flushing out the lungs. So specifically, and I'm going to wander into territory that is definitely beyond my real full understanding, but summarizing some of the stuff that I read from Joseph, apparently it stimulates the vagus nerve and sends signals to the lungs to secrete mucus from every part of the lungs. And the mucus mixes with pollutants. But then what's interesting is not only does it stimulate the mucus production, but it's also a really powerful expectorant. So it flushes out the lungs. And then on top of it, there's a word that I'd heard before, but until I sort of dug into Joseph's work, didn't fully understand what it meant, but is hypoglycemic effect, which basically means that it helps revert to a healthy state without any, and interestingly, without increasing insulin. And this is where, that idea of the full impact of the plant comes, where it does all of this very effectively without sort of side effects that you might get from synthetic medicines. It's also apparently an anti-cancer medicine and a chemopreventative effects, especially related or specifically related to lung tissue. So it really is this kind of lung medicine. So stimulates the mucus, mixes, flushes out the lungs, and then returns the lungs back to the original state very effectively. So it sounds like a wonder medicine.
Right.
Okay, so is that one?
And then we have Mshkiki. Mshkiki. Again, there's the word Mshkik, as in the muskeg, Mshkig, the swamp, and tig, Mshkiki.
Okay, and tig, of course, is tree. So this one was also interesting. So again, picking up on information from Joseph, one interesting thing is it's a deciduous conifer, which basically means it's evergreen, but it loses its needles every year, unusually. The other thing that was unique about it that Joseph was talking about is that this is the one tree that will survive in a swamp no matter how swampy it gets, basically. So other trees that will grow in a swamp, when it really gets high levels of water, will go into almost like a hibernation state or sort of shut down. But this one just powers through, and I guess hence the name, Mshkiki. So it's called the nerve medicine. And apparently it's got a whole variety of compounds that are good for treating allergies, diabetic treatment, regulation of nitric oxide production, prevention of nervous degenerative diseases, modulation of the immune system, inhibition of metastasis of tumor cells in the liver, and treating upper respiratory infections, among other things. And then one thing that I thought was super interesting is Joseph was describing how the Cree up north use this tree to prevent themselves from going blind. So when elderly people are sort of having what's called slow blindness, and they're starting to lose the vision in their eye, they'll burn a log until a thick black tar bubbles out of the end and smear it directly on the eyes, the resin, and that will prevent that degeneration of the eyes. And by the way, I mean, that's just one example, but throughout this whole sort of investigation, largely through Joseph's work, it's just incredible, how effective these medicines are, but more importantly, how much knowledge there traditionally is about specifically what to use. And as you were saying, not just broadly to use them, but like when to harvest them and how to harvest them and how to, I mean, it's mind-boggling, the sort of the deeper you go into this. Okay.
All right. This next one says Gziib'nashk. Gziib'nashk. So we have nagish. Nagish is the intestine. So notice the shape of that plant, the shape of an intestine.
Yeah, and actually, this is a perfect example of that point on the first slide about the doctrine of signatures, where looking through a lot of Joseph's work, whether it's the scale or even at a microscopic scale, how the shape or the form of the plant can often tell you what part of the body it's good for. And this is an example where that shape of the intestine you're talking about is a signal that's what you should be using it for. So this was also an interesting one. So apparently, again, using Joseph's information, this medicine was traditionally used to line baskets when harvesting blueberries, and the oil coming out of the plant prevented most foodborne funguses. It can be used for diarrhea, constipation. I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, but diverticulitis, and then also irritable bowel disease like Crohn's or colitis. So again, with the intestine. And apparently, ancient midwives, Anishinaabeg, would use this plant as the first bath for infants, usually for the first few months, because it has antiseptic and antimicrobial qualities. So that was kind of interesting. Okay, and then?
All right, now we have the Mshkiki bloodroot. And the Gziib'nashk comes from that root, Gziib'nashk. Mshkiki.
And if I'm not mistaken, so miskwande is red, and then
Right.
miskwa itself is blood, right?
Right.
Okay. So this one, I will tell you, I love, just in terms of the use. There's some really, really cool stuff. So first of all, apparently this plant is incredibly toxic. And in fact, it's one of the most deadly plants in North America. And what Joseph was talking about is that it's a sedative. So basically within, I think, 10 minutes, if you get exposed to parts of this plant, it can stop your heart and you die, essentially. So you got to be really, really careful, and it's highly dangerous. But conversely, if it's used properly, it's apparently one of the most powerful medicines in preparation for pregnancy. And the reason for that I thought was super interesting. So what Joseph was talking about is that traditional midwives would apparently, when there would be a couple who were together and were going to reproduce, they would go to the midwife, and the midwife would give them a compound of medicine. So a whole bunch of different medicines, which would include this one. And the female would take the full medicine before they even thought about reproducing. So she'd have to kind of do that before they would even, be intimate together. And one of the components of this would be this bloodroot, the Mshkiki. And the reason is that apparently it's highly effective at preparing the uterus for pregnancy by eliminating fibroids. And why that's important is because fibroids are one of the leading causes of miscarriage and stillbirth. So again, like, just to sort of stop and think for a second, the knowledge, and we're not talking like last week or a few years ago. This is a very, very long time ago, right? So the knowledge to understand the interaction of this plant, to know how to deal with it, despite how dangerous it is and the fact that it can kill you if you're not careful, and then to have a relationship between the midwife and a young couple to do this as a way of ensuring effective childbirth. I mean, it just, for me anyway, it's just mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, next is Azat Wabishkize. Azat Wabishkize.
Okay, and you were saying that azat is, so this is a trembling aspen, but you were saying azat on its own is a poplar, right?
Azat is a poplar, yes, Zadi.
And then the wabishkize means white, essentially.
White, Wabishkize.
Like a white poplar. Okay, so the next couple we're going to look at, this is another one that Joseph was talking about, which is that traditionally the Anishinaabeg have not used soaps. And in let's alternative solution to staying clean, whereas bark baths and sponge baths using the bark. And apparently these bark baths are really, really effective at purging the lymphatic system flushing out toxins from your body, and basically they are extreme diaphoretic, making you sweat a lot. So really flushing out your system. A, staying clean. B, not having body odor. And just the other on top of it. The interesting thing is by having this flush, this almost like a power wash of your body. All sorts of things on the skin, like skin cancers, eczema, worms, and then other lupus, measles, but like acne, cold sores, psoriasis, warts, and other things. Are very, very effective at dealing with this. This bark plus a couple of others we're going to look at, but this one in particular is apparently good at getting rid of inflammation around dermal or skin tissue. So we'll look at a couple of other ones that were used for bark bath.
Next, we have the Adopmish Makadewi Guases. Adopmish Makadewi Guases. And then we have Gziib'nashk, also known as Gziib'nashk. Gziib'nashk.
Okay. And so for the first one, is there anything in Adopmish that
Adopmish. Nothing stands out.
Okay, but I think Mkade Wiguasens, that seems pretty clear. Is that like a little black birch or something?
Black birch, right.
Yeah. Okay. So so these two, again, same thing, bark bath to purge the lymphatic system and all the same benefits we talked about. But then in particular, these ones really are good at dilating the pores and drawing out water from the body, and also repairing the lymphatic system quickly so that the body can be more efficient at getting rid of waste and not letting the waste build up in the body. So again, these bark baths were really, really effective way at keeping your lymphatic system healthy. And then the last one is
Mshkiki.
And so I guess we have the Misqua again, right? Which is
right. Mshkiki means red.
Red. And so this in English is the red osier dogwood. Again, used for bark bath. This one is apparently good at relieving inflammation and pain, according to Joseph's information. And in particular, contains a pain-relieving compound called verbenilin. And so again, I just I'll keep saying it, but you see this, and the level of precise understanding of these plants and how they interact with the human body is really quite amazing. Okay, and then we have.
And then Gagage Bagus.
Okay, which is the princess pine. And so I saw on Joseph's website that word apparently means forever the same, which is in a way another way of saying evergreen. But can you talk about the word? Is there anything in the word that means that?
The word gagage is a meaning of something that is a continuum of. Gagage.
So in other words, forever.
Yeah, in other words, forever.
Okay. And so this is apparently a go-to medicine for fibromyalgia. And in particular, it's an effective inhibitor of the COX-2 enzyme, which is what causes pain from fibromyalgia. And incidentally, it's also the enzyme that causes pain when you talk about flu aches and those aches that you get in your body. And also, maybe I should stop here for a second just to give a little more context around Joseph's work, because this isn't just him understanding these medicines in a traditional sense. But what I find really interesting about his work is that he's gone very, very deep into Western medicine and used the approach of Western medicine and microscopic understanding of these plants and chemical understanding of these plants, and then brought that back to the traditional to validate a lot of the traditional uses. So it's kind of the bridging of the two worlds, which is super interesting. Okay, then we have
And then we have Gawakamish. Gawakamish.
Okay, and that's prickly ash. So this one, for anyone who's got achy teeth, is good for toothache relief, apparently. It's also what Joseph referred to as a broad spectrum antifungal plant, so all sorts of funguses. And therefore, it's a traditional go-to antifungal medicine. And apparently has really dramatic effects with skin mutations, whether it's fungus problems, eczema, psoriasis, alopecia, or vitiligo.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and again, this is also just dipping the toe into the water of the doctrine of signatures again. The tooth-like form of the spikes is apparently a signal, of the fact that it's helpful for your teeth. Okay.
And then we have Mshkiki Gabug. Mshkiki Gabug.
Okay. Labradortine. I guess we have that word Mshkig in there again, right?
Mm-hmm.
The swamp. So I've been hearing a lot about this one recently. This is also apparently sort of a wonder medicine. It has a few different things. So one is that it apparently keeps small and large arthropods away, whether it's mites, ticks, dust mites, etc. But it also stimulates the immune system as much as fasting does. Joseph was talking about the impacts of fasting on stimulating your immune system, particularly at points of seasonal change. It's apparently very effective at taking mercury out of the body and brain, improves insulin sensitivity while also improving renal function and lowering adipogenesis. And in particular, this is apparently a very important medicine for people with diabetes. The other thing that was also really interesting is that it kills lung cancer cells only 9.7 times slower than conventional chemotherapy without the side effects. And because there's no side effects, there's no real limit on the dose you can take. So you can get to a point where you can approximate the impacts of chemotherapy without all of the negative side effects, apparently, which is pretty cool. Also, yeah, by the way, the other thing that Joseph did, which I didn't really include in here, but I want to mention this one, which was cool, is he talked a little bit about some of these words in other languages like Cree or the Inuit language as well. And apparently there's a word, I forget off the top of my head the full word, but it essentially means the little kayak plant in the Inuit language because of those little leaves looking like little kayaks when they get dried out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this one.
Kandamo.
Okay.
Kandamo. The water lily.
Okay, so this was a cool one. So this was one where Joseph was talking a little bit about learning how from animals and how they interact with the plants as a guide for what it might be used for. So apparently moose, especially male moose, love the roots of this plant, and during mating season can spend 4 to 7 hours a day standing in the water devouring the roots of these water lilies. And the reason is that it helps them get their muscles ready for fighting and running great distances during mating season. So the scientific explanation of this is that a 90-gram dose of lily roots as medicine can increase the glucose uptake in your muscle by 60%. So you're basically 60% more effective at using a sugar provided by the liver. And this can be good for diabetes, Alzheimer's, cancer, but in particular increases the body's ability in aerobic exercise. So you just don't get the fatigue in your muscle. And then the other thing that was interesting is there's a word there, I'm not sure if you can see it clearly, which is mij makijege. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, which apparently is baiting. And what he was describing is that traditional hunters would dry and smolder the roots of this in the forest to attract the moose when they were hunting them. And they apparently they love this plant. Okay, we are at the last one, I believe. Oh, I think there's one more after this. But in any case, so this one.
We have Ojawamish. Ojawamish.
Okay. This one is the beach. So Joseph describes Ja as describing something that might be pierced. And apparently the beetroot bark was used to make dye for tattoos. So that when the tea is mixed with the blood, it turns pitch black
Mhm.
and is used to coat and clean the needles in the art of traditional tattooing.
Mm.
Okay, so this one, in terms of the name, is actually my favorite one.
Mepin. Mepin.
So yeah, so neme, I guess, is sturgeon,
Sturgeon.
and then pin is potato.
Right.
So this one was interesting. So there's actually a lot of interesting stuff. Joseph talked about this, which is what we do know is that there's an ancient practice of washing fish nets with different plant teas to attract fish species. And apparently, when you wash your fish net with the tea of this plant, you will attract lots of sturgeon. So that's interesting. But taking it further is like, okay, why and what's the connection? And in some of the work that Joseph was doing, there's a sort of surmising that in prehistoric times, when the sturgeon were still, it seems based on fossil records, land-based before they were water-based, may have actually had this plant in their diet or other plants in their diet. So there's sort of an understanding of that connection, which is built right into the name of the plant, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the last one.
Abzichigan. Abzichigan.
So this is a herbal blend. And I guess you were saying that this is a way of saying someone's healed if they come
Someone has healed, right? If I was to say what the word we have there, Giabzishin, means he or she has healed. Giabzishin.
Okay. And so as you were saying, this is a general purpose for various sicknesses. And it's ground up and drunk as a tea. And it's a specific mixture of different herbs from the forest that's given. Now, I want to ask you, have you had this before?
Yes, I always take this in especially in the fall time.
And do you take it when you're healthy or when you're sick or both?
Take it when I'm healthy.
Okay. And would you just have it like regularly, or what would be the way you would take it?
Yeah, I would take it around mid-November and just for about 4 or 5 days, just drink it as a tea.
Mm-hmm. And where would you get it from?
Pat usually has a bag at home.
Okay. And do you know where she gets it?
Probably from Joe.
Oh, okay. Okay, of course. Interesting. All right. Well, so Isadore, we are at the end of episode 12. This was really, really interesting for me. I learned a ton that I literally didn't know any of this stuff before. So thank you to Joseph, and of course, thank you to you,
Right.
Miigwech. And anything else on Mshkiki to add, or other sort of thoughts before
No,
we?
just the one thing that I wanted to talk about in relation to what we were talking in the beginning of episode 12, that we talked about different things relating to words that are construed to be what they aren't. For example, we have the word makomase, as in bear walker. But now we have that word makomase as a witch at Halloween time. Makomase. We call that the witch. Makomase was a good thing at one point in time.
Mm-hmm.
As history evolves, it became a bad thing. Makomase, becoming a witch. Coming out at Halloween time. So the different words in the Anishinaabemowin become misconstrued through time of evolution.
Mm-hmm.
As in Mekomase, meaning a witch today, but in the reality, it's Makwamase, as in bear walker.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and so this is picking up. By the way, there's a fire alarm. Can you hear that? Okay. Well, good timing.
Time to run.
Exactly. But basically, that's picking up on the point we were making earlier about medicine and Mshkiki not being equivalents of each other, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And again, just remembering to pick that medicine at certain times.
Mhm.
Why would you pick medicine in the beginning of summertime?
Mhm.
Why would you pick medicine at the end of summertime, at the beginning of fall when it's starting to freeze?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's different logics behind that.
Mhm. All right. I probably need to go.
All right.
So,
Now, Baba-P.
yeah.
Have
So,
a safe trip.
yeah, exactly. So I will. I'll be in touch with you, and I guess after the next time I talk, I will have been to Wikwemkong.
You will be. How?
Okay. Bama
Baba-P.
Okay. If you enjoyed this video and think that others should see it, please hit the like button below. All likes help us get seen by others. And of course, be sure to subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all new episodes. Make sure to turn notifications on so that you will know when we upload a new episode. Gziib'nashk.